Hi friends, today I want to talk about a few photos that I've taken in the past and break down my thought process behind how I took them and the technical realities of the photos themselves. Now, I'm doing this so that you can become a better photographer tomorrow than you are today. And then hopefully, maybe one day you can teach your children, and then your children can teach your children's children. By the year 2080, when they have fancy eyeball cameras, and photography has dissolved into nothing more than blinking, the art will be gone, but at least it's better than your kids doing future drugs. I have my wife with me here today. All of the photos I'm going to talk about today were taken during desert excursions near where I live in Utah. The first photo I want to talk about a little bit was taken at a place called Little Sahara. It is a place where there are enormous sand dunes. It's exactly like it sounds. It's a baby Sahara desert, and people go take their dune mobiles and two-wheeled rolling jalopies and go for a fun time. This photo has a very minimalistic quality to it. One of the reasons why is because it is backlit. All the details in the foreground are completely gone, and we're left with a silhouette of a sand dune and a guy going up a mountain and then his dust trail. Now, as always, I was very intentional about how I framed up this shot, and in this case I have the sand dune taking up the bottom third of the screen and the rest of it is sky. There are a few things that made this photo work, one of them being the use of a long lens. This photo would not have looked anything like this if I had a wider angle. Using a long lens here helped me create a very cinematic and sort of magical look, and also being so far away from the person here creates this sense of hugeness. I think a very important point of focus with this photo, photography fun, right? Boo! Alright, and that is what I was doing before I took the photo, and it is what I do in every photographic situation, and it is a huge part of the photographer's skill set, and that is being observant of your surroundings. There's a certain intuitive eye that you want to grow as a photographer to pay attention to what is happening and sort of tell the future and see what is going to happen and where it's going to happen. Thinking this way will allow you to be in the right place at the right time. There should be just as much intentional strategy going on before you take the photo as when you take the photo. This next photo is one that I really love, and it was taken at a place called Dead Horse Point, which if you ever make your way over to the west, Dead Horse Point. This is a photo from the observation deck that overlooks the very popular bend that's very similar to Horseshoe Bend in the Grand Canyon. That's what it's called, right? I think it's called Horseshoe Bend, but Christina is fact-checking me. I was correct, my enormous brain prevails again. I'm really a benefit to all of society. So in this photo, unlike the last one, I used a wide lens. Now I forget if it was 50 or 35, it was one of the two. It looks like it's probably 35. This allowed me to create a very dramatic representation of what is close and push everything in the background out into the distance. And it makes it feel huge in a very unique way. Another important point of focus was my angle and perspective. I was able to actually get above the observation deck on another observation deck, point down, get the background in the photo, and I think the angle is really what makes this photo what it is. As always, I'm paying close attention to the expressions and the positioning of the people in the photo here, and they're actually grouped in twos, which I find very aesthetically pleasing, and the light, the way the light is playing off of them, worked really well. Also, the interesting thing about this photo is that it would have a different dynamic at each point in the day due to the lighting situations, and I would be interested to see what it would look like in the morning or even at noon. One of the things I love so much about this photo is it's a beautiful symbiosis of what I try to capture in my photos, which is an intriguing balance between an interesting scene and some interesting people. Okay, we have teleported back to Little Sahara, and in this photo I'm much closer to the action. As I was observing the scene and searching for interesting photos, and there was a lot of action going on, and sometimes that can be its own challenge, I noticed this line of people that sat at the bottom of the sand dune, and they would park there for a second, and then 2 or 3 of them would shoot up the mountain. I thought to myself, I would like to be close to a few of them when they make their ascent. So I made my way over to the line, stood around, me and Christina made some conversation as well, and just kept my eye out, and it was very intentional. I'm always in this mode when I'm in a photographic situation. I always have part of my brain focused on what's going on all around me. The good thing is when they go up the hill, they like to do this thing where they park beside each other for a second and they'll sort of race up the hill together. This was helpful because I was able to prepare for when they decided to go up. One good thing about taking photos of someone engaged in a very high energy activity is it makes sense that you would want to take photos of them. So if you have social anxiety, it will make it easier for you to approach that situation and get closer to the people, take a photo that you feel good about. So I set up my shot, I prepared for the moment, and when they hit the throttle, I was ready. Another thing that's incredibly important in this type of situation is to know your settings. You want the camera to be an extension of your arm. It's a really good idea if you're capturing somebody going really fast to know what your shutter speed should be to create a sense of motion so that they're not perfectly still. That's a fantastic technique. It's extremely easy to screw this type of photo up if you do know your settings. You will likely screw it up much more horribly if you don't know your settings. Christina!
Yes.
Should you not or should you know your settings?
You should know your settings.
Wrong! No, right. Those are just a few of my desert-related photos. I hope you found this helpful. It's important to be very observant in the desert, both in terms of photography and in terms of general life. It's very easy to come across a pit of quicksand that will eat your spouse. And most people don't want their spouse, and not all, but most people don't want their spouse eaten by quicksand. Christina.
Yes.
I would rather you not be eaten by quicksand.
If I were to die, how would you want me to die? By quicksand?
In the desert or just in general?
In a desert.
In a desert, like if I had to choose between the choices of things that would kill you. That's a tough one. Falling off of a desert cliff, for sure.
It's horrible.
Well, I mean, you got scorpions, which just hurt a lot and slowly kill you.
I'd get run over by one of those. That way I can do one of those cool flips.
Dissolve your hand. You want to get ran over by a dune buggy?
Yeah, that way it's quick.
I don't think that would be quick at all.
Oh.
It'd be slow and painful.
No.
I think you'd break every bone.
No, if they hit me the right way. This is getting weird.
Yeah, well...
If I fell off a
if
cliff,
you get lucky.
If I fell off a cliff, I would fall for at least 20 seconds and know, like,
I know, but when you hit the ground, you're gonna explode like a water balloon. So, it's gonna be over pretty quick.
All right, we're done.
Okay, photography. Thanks. I hope you learned something. Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to engage below. I will engage back with you, and I hope you have a lovely day. Goodbye.